Hey everyone, welcome to the patch 5.2a jungle tier list, where we will be discussing the weakest and strongest junglers for this patch. And without further ado, let's get right into it with the C tier, where we have Kayle, Malphite, Nasus, and Samira. These are just for fun junglers. We wanna wait for the Kayle rework, but she's still probably gonna be bad in the jungle. Going to the B tier, we have Darius, Mundo, Fizz, Sett, Fiora, Yasuo, Nila, and Tryndamere. Basically, the issue with all of these champions is that they're just way better off in another lane. For example, Mundo, Darius in the Baron lane, Fizz mid, Sett, etc, etc. But the ones with most potential to go a higher tier would be Fiora and Tryndamere. Fiora is super skill based, can still work if you're a really good Fiora, but don't make your life hard, just use another scaling champion and you can make more impact. Same with Tryndamere, literally a coin flip. Sometimes he can do really good, sometimes he's just useless, so it just depends on the lineup. Going to the A tier, this is where most of the meta junglers reside, and if you notice, there's a lot of power picks here that was previously on the S plus and S tier, now have been bumped down all the way to the A tier. The biggest champion that received this nerf is Maokai, who was a god tier champion, now is a normal tank champion. The last set of nerfs where his first skill got less damage has placed him in this tier. It doesn't mean that Maokai is a bad pick now, it just means that he's now in a balanced state where he actually does his role being a tank with a lot of crowd control rather than being a tank with a lot of crowd control and also deals a lot of damage, which basically makes any champion OP if they can do all of that. Another champion that has been dragged down here is Talon. I'm still thinking whether to put him in S. Probably for Talon, one trick still really good on S, but generally he's a great fit into the A tier. In China server though, he has a big win rate, but I can't see it right now, so we'll just put him here. Picks that have the potential to become S would be Xin Zhao, Volibear, depending on the matchup. Yone also has, if your team is early game based, but with the current meta, it's all about snowballing the early game rather than scaling into the late game. By the time Yone gets strong, everyone has a lot of damage, crowd control, and can just join the Yone. But of course, there's some instances where Yone can still pop off. Other underrated champions would be Camille. Shen, I think, is the most underrated right now. If you have a good team, then he's just gonna amplify them all and make them even more annoying to deal with. Jace is also really good if they have no sustain. Shock Blast does a lot of damage if you're able to use or hit your skill shot. Kayn also has the potential for S, depending on the opponents. If they're all ranged, then he just gets his blue form and one-shots literally the entire enemy team. Pantheon, a great pick on the lower ranks, but might struggle on the higher ranks since people know how to play against him. The most interesting pick that I placed this patch would be Varus Jungle. There's a Chinese Varus Jungle that has just been popping off, and with all of the new items being great on Varus, or rather the AP Varus being meta right now, deals so much damage, and this also makes him viable in the jungle role. Just be careful of the early game, but once you're able to get past it, then he's a legit jungler. Really strong execute with the second skill, first skill on the objectives, crowd control, engage with the ultimate, and can just pop any frontline with the full stacks plus Riftmaker plus second skill combo. Then we go to the S tier, where all of these champions can snowball the game out of control when given an early game lead. First two champions I just want to talk about, Lee Sin, Hecarim. Even though they have been bumped down from S plus tier, Lee Sin has not gotten any nerf, but the indirect nerf by reverting the Ghost Blade hurt his damage a bit. But at the end of the day, if you're a Lee Sin main and can use this champion to perfection, then he's still an S plus tier champion. It's just that those who are not that good or can play him decently, it doesn't feel like an S plus tier. Similar to Hecarim, with the damage nerfs as well, he's more of an engaged champion. If you're really good with Hecarim, still an S plus, but otherwise, very strong S tier jungler. A champion that I want to talk about is Riven. She has been given a lot of buffs recently, especially with that ultimate reset. She can just pop off in every fight when Riven is able to get a takedown. All you need to do is get that one kill and the fight is pretty much done. Vi, the most stable S tier pick. can pretty much do everything with tankiness, burst, DPS, and the engage. I have no idea why Riot decided to buff her, but she's still really in a good spot. Lilia, despite low-key getting nerfed because of the Riftmaker change, is still in the S tier, probably the strongest late-game jungler right now. If you get your 3-item power spike, then her damage is still pretty much the same. Her early game just got a little bit harder, but once you get to that late game, yeah, she just 1v9s. Especially with her flash first skill ulti, stasis combo. Gragas, I think, is the most underrated champion in this tier. Definitely deserves S because of his burst potential. Can pretty much one-shot anyone with the third skill flash when you have 3 items. Nautilus has gotten a nerf on the recent patch but is still here in the S tier. You could build him on the AP Bruiser side and still be the same annoying champion. Kha'Zix getting some love in this patch, is still in the S tier since his isolation damage is really strong and can one-shot the squishies and easily punish the enemy team. Eve is very similar to Lilia. All of the AP champions got nerfed with the post-rework on the items, but the story is pretty much the same on all of these AP champions, where once they're able to get their power spike, which is 3 items, they can just pop off in the fights. It's just that their early game is a bit weaker. Lastly, and back to the S tier, is Aatrox. A very solid pick. The new items suit him so much, especially with the Sundered Sky. Really good synergy with his passive, giving him so much HP as well as damage. The only problem with this champion is that his early game is a bit slow, but once you're able to get the kills, then he's just gonna pop off. Literally saving the best for last, standing alone at the S+ tier, would be Viego. Currently the king of the jungle. With all of the jungle nerfs that happened on the different champions, this guy still stays the same, and I have no idea why Riot did not nerf this guy. Or wait, never mind, I know why, because he has a Crystal Rose skin. So they're probably gonna nerf him next patch, I hope. But the only difficulty about Viego is where you need to know how to use literally every champion in the game to be able to use Viego efficiently. But otherwise, when you're able to know how to use them all, he's just the most broken jungler in the game right now. And that is it for our jungle tier list. Take note that this is just in general, so if you have high skill or a one trick, then your champion can definitely be higher in the list. With that said, if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to type it down below and sub if you enjoyed this content. That's it for me. Thanks for watching and peace out. Ciao, ciao. Bye.